Hello, Michael. This presentation will be on state and county park fees in Hawaii, looking at county ordinances and state regulations surrounding county park fees as well as state park fees around Hawaii. This is a brief outline of what this presentation will entail. First, looking at issues surrounding the parks around Keaukaha area and then going into the state and county rules and regulations, looking at areas like Haena and Hapuna, also looking at areas such as Waimanalo in terms of their county ordinances and how they regulate their park fees. Then we'll jump into possible solutions for regulating park fees in and around the Hilo area, things like the honor system, the county code changes, and county partnerships with the state agencies. There are three big issues surrounding our county parks in and around Hilo, especially those around Keaukaha. The first issue is that of capacity. Now, while there is more current data available, the data that I use for this presentation comes from 2023 study, in which 23,000 or roughly 24,000 visitors come to the beaches monthly. And of these 24,000, 5,300 of them are fit tourists or fully independent tourists who are not connected to any sort of tourism company or guided tour. Currently, at our county parks, we have a lack of safe infrastructure to support these types of activities. The second major issue that we have at these parks is the issue of limited parking. Now, we have limited, as I said before, we have limited parking at each of these beach parks. And when that happens, people tend to choose to park alongside the road for easier access to the beaches. Unfortunately, that makes our roads and highways very unsafe. It also makes it unsafe for pedestrians as they have to choose to walk around these cars onto the road, causing a major hazard to safety and wellness. Uh, there is also unsafe and nuisance parking near homes within areas like Lele'iwi and Keaukaha, where people are parking literally in front of people's homes and in front of people's driveways, and that can cause major issues, especially in the cases of emergencies. The last kind of major issue that we see around our beach parks and around our county parks is commercial activity. Um, One of those things being managing tourism in these communities. Tourism companies currently kind of just run throughout these county beach parks, and the communities want to be able to see some sort of control and or community benefit from these commercial activities occurring in their areas. Um, Communities also want to see that money is staying within their community. Uh, there is also currently no mechanism right now for communities to vend at our county parks, and this can limit the ways of fully supporting a community or allowing a community to support themselves. So, what are the state and county rules and regulations around parking, around capacity, and around commercial activity? So, currently at state parks, we have mechanisms such as fees. These fees include a $5 entry fee, a parking fee, a fee for camping, a fee for specific permits, and all of these funds are deposited into the state parks special fund as per Hawaii Revised Statutes, Chapter 184-3.4. The State Park Special Fund a is a fund that goes towards supporting permanent and temporary staff, planning and development of state parks programs, including the Aina Ho'omalu programs, construction, repairs, replacement, addition, and extensions of state parks facilities, operations and maintenance costs of state parks and state park programs, and lastly, administrative costs of the Division of Parks. For more information on fee schedules, we can look up the Hawaii Revised Statute Chapter 184-3.2 for more details. As per the law in Hawaii, we have our revised statutes, which is the actual law itself, and then each division, each program, each agency has administrative rules to guide how we enact these laws. And for our state parks, we have a Hawaii Administrative Rule Chapter 13-146-5 and Chapter 13-146-6, Exhibit 2 and 3, which enacts parking and individual fees for state parks. The regulations that guide our operations in our County of Hawaii parks comes from Section 15 of the Hawaii County Code, Parks and Recreation. Now, there's several different articles within this Section 15. The main ones that I want to point out for this presentation comes from Article 2, Restrictions and Prohibitions, looking at things like hours of operations. The important things to note here is that the director may establish different and specific hours of operation for any park or any portion of the or area of the park. The director also may designate for specific approval only. All parks, as it's currently written within the Section 15, is open daily at 7 a.m. and closes at 8 p.m. Recreation facilities shall have posted open and closing times, and if not posted, then it shall be considered closed and available only via use of permit or specific approval. Other sections covered within Article 2 include prohibited actions, regulated actions, commercial activities, and vehicle parking restrictions. So as briefly mentioned in my slides before, commercial activity without a permit is prohibited, provided that this section shall not apply to transactions with authorized concessionaries. Commercial activities include, but is not limited to, the exchange or buying and selling of commodities, the providing of services related to or connected with the trade, traffic, or commerce. In general, any activity performed by the commercial operator or its employees. So this is major, since a lot of our future plans for these communities include things like farmers markets, things like concessionaries, in things that allow for community to support itself. But due to the way that the code is written, none of those activities are allowed. Now, one important thing to note is that sometimes the law is not, while the law says one thing, the matter of enforcement is another. For instance, when we look at vehicle parking restrictions, no vehicle shall be driven and operated upon or parked within a park or recreational facility except on paved or unpaved roads and parking areas specifically established and provided for park or recreational facility users while they are actively using or seeking to use the park or recreational facility in a manner consistent with all applicable rules and regulations. Now, when we look at parking specifically, parking of vehicles shall be within marked stalls or in places designated for such use by appropriate signage, and as they may be provided or as otherwise permitted by the director. Essentially, this rule is saying that parking should only occur within the marked stalls within our parks, but due to the fact that our enforcement around the county is so thin, it is very hard to enforce the parking, and people tend to do what they want when it comes to accessing our beaches and our beach parks. Further articles of this section that may be interesting to folks is Article 3 regarding public meetings and assemblies, as well as Article 4 looking at camping. So what does it look like when we apply these rules and regulations to specific areas? So when we look at state parks, they follow state parks rules and regulations. So Haena Beach State Recreation Area, for instance, has certain rules and regulations regarding fees, fee schedules, parking fees, and daily operations. So Haena requires that all non-residents over the age of 3 pay entrance fees of $5 per person. Uh, this park also requires that park reservations are made in advance. Residents are granted access for free with Hawaii driver's license or a Hawaii ID. For parking, there's a parking fee that is enacted from 6 a.m. to sunset. Now, this is for all non-commercial vehicles, which costs $20 per vehicle, and a parking reservation is required. Now, there are daily shuttles provided for this park, in which shuttle reservations for ages 16 and up cost $45, ages 4 to 15 cost $25, and all ages under 4 are free. The last shuttle arrives at or returns at 6:40 p.m. for this area. Now, the interesting thing about Haena State Park is that they work in partnership with the state parks, and 10% of the portions of the fees goes to the Hui Maka'ainana o Makana, who oversees and manages park reservation systems and shuttle systems. The Hui also manages the cultural landscape of the park. For the Hapuna State Recreation Area, there is again an entrance fee, $5 per person over 3 years old, and free for residents with a Hawaii driver's license. There's also a parking fee for non-commercial vehicles, which is $10 per vehicle, and for commercial PUC vehicles, it depends on the passenger size. So 1 to 7 passengers cost $25, 8 to 25 passenger costs $50, and 26 and over passenger vehicles cost $90 to enter the park. So while Waimanalo Beach Park is not on the island of Hawaii, I wanted to show an example of how county parks are able to regulate fees and issues such as parking and commercial activities through the county ordinances. So Waimanalo Beach Park follows the revised ordinances of Honolulu, specifically the ones called out in Chapter 10, Public Parks and Recreation Facilities. Now, Chapter 10-1.2 Section G looks at parking meters and time limits and where those fees go to. And Chapter 10-1.2 Section H looks at commercial activities and how that is prohibited at parks. Actually, Chapter 10-1.3 also looks at permits, things like camping permits and other permits, and where those fees go to as well. The interesting thing about the revised ordinances of Honolulu is that it actually provides specific regulations on specific county beach parks around the island. So what works here at Waimanalo Beach Park may be different from that works at Kaimana. It may also be different from what works at Ka'ava Beach Park, which also may be different from what occurs at Nanakuli Beach Park. So there is specific rules regarding each beach park. So what are some possible solutions for regulating things like parking, things like capacity, and things like commercial activity? One such way to regulate parking is through an honor system. Now, on the picture on the right that we see here is of Honaunau Beach Park, in which a nonprofit organization, the Honaunau Church, offers the service of parking through a honor system. In this case, it requires constant presence, and while it isn't mandated for patrons to pay for the parking, it is highly encouraged, and with constant presence, it is hard to say no to donate a nominal fee to park one's vehicle in this area. The great thing about this system is that it's no cost to implement. Uh, it requires a nonprofit to manage, and it requires constant presence. However, it doesn't cost money to create infrastructure around. It doesn't uh, require any fees or mandated fees. However, it could discourage people from actually utilizing this service and incentivizing people to try and park elsewhere. And so that's why this type of method for regulating parking should be paired with county code changes to manage parking within neighborhoods, within other areas, to disincentivize people from parking illegally outside of areas such as this. It is also able to kind of regulate capacity through providing just a limited amount of parking. When there's limited um, parking available, people are less incentivized to go to that area. Another possible way of regulating parking and capacity within our beach parks is through county code changes. This could include things like changes to our parking controls, including parking fees into our areas, building infrastructure like parking meters, and at rates of like $1.50 to $2 an hour, which is the average going rate for parking meters, and through things like parking apps like Park Smarter or Just Park. By restricting these, by providing this parking fee types of service, you are limiting the amount of parking available in areas. And that paired with things like restricted parking zones, things like the sign that we see here, disincentivizes people from parking elsewhere outside of the marked stalls, and also controls the amount of people that are able to come into the beach parks. The thing about this is that it requires parking enforcement and maintenance, which means that HPD is responsible for enforcement and the collection of parking fees. Now, while this does put more responsibility onto our county enforcement, such as HPD, it is a good thing that it provides the community a actual arm of enforcement that will regulate the parking in these areas. One thing of note when it comes to parking fees and including county meters, all fees go to Highways Fund created by the Hawaii Revised Statutes Chapter 249. And if you want to learn more about the Highways Fund, please see Hawaii Revised Statutes Chapter 249. Another possibility in looking at regulating parking and capacity within our parks is looking at partnerships with county and state agencies along with community organizations. This could look like the implementation of fee stations or parking reservations, which would be free for residents with Hawaii IDs, but would cost a fee for non-residents. These fees could be paid via state and deposited into state parks special fund, as it is with the state park system currently. This could also look like the implementation of a shuttle service in which people are brought in to these areas for a fee and brought back out, therefore not needing to park their own personal vehicles. Another idea is the contracting of an independent agency who would then manage and monitor the parking within the beach park systems. Now, these independent contractors would include institutions like Just Park or Diamond Head Parking, Park Smart, Spot Hero. There are many different parking companies out there that would be happy to enter into negotiations. This can control the capacity as it limits the amount of people coming in through things like an entrance fee, or could even limit capacity through limited amounts of reservations available for the parks in Hawaii or in the Hilo area. And when it comes to enforcing, who would be enforcing these things, it would be through a state employee or a local nonprofit who partners with the state and county agencies. We see this example in Haena, where the nonprofit there partnered with the state to regulate and enforce these rules, and in return, a portion of the fees collected goes towards that nonprofit. So in conclusion, while there are issues surrounding capacity, parking, and little to no economic return to the Keaukaha and Lele'iwi communities or the Hilo community, and while county and state parks are limited to the regulations that currently exist, there are a number of options that can be explored for our Hilo Beach parks, including those at Keaukaha and Lele'iwi. And these management styles should be led by the community and in ways that serve the communities there. I just want to mahalo nui to everybody for your time and for your patience throughout this presentation, and I hope that we can continue to work together to find solutions to these issues facing our Hilo Beach parks. Mahalo nui.